300 years drinking blood that tastes like ash. I stopped counting victims after the first century. I stopped feeling remorse after the second. And in the third century, I stopped feeling anything at all. The blood that once burned my throat with life and memories became simply nothing. Like drinking dirty water from a dead river. They say ancient vampires lose their humanity gradually. First goes compassion, then curiosity. Finally, even the pleasure of feeding disappears, leaving only emptiness and mechanical hunger. My name is Dominic Valerian. I was born in Florence in 1685, transformed in 1705 by a creature whose name I've forgotten. I've watched empires fall, seen wars reshape continents, witnessed humanity evolve while I remained frozen in this cursed immortality. For 200 years, every drop of blood has tasted the same, like ashes and regret. I feed only to survive, not to savor. The memories I once absorbed from my victims became gray noise, indistinguishable whispers of lives I couldn't bring myself to care about. Until October 17th, 2025. Until her. Until the night I tasted blood that burned like consecrated wine, igniting sensations I thought had died with my humanity. Blood that carried memories so vivid they made me remember what it felt like to be alive. Her name was Luminita Inacha, and she would become either my salvation or my final damnation. Act 1. The Witness. The warehouse district of Boston smelled like rust and rain that night. I'd come to eliminate a problem: 3 rogue vampires who'd been feeding too conspicuously, drawing the attention of hunters and police alike. As the eldest vampire in New England territory, maintaining order fell to me. A responsibility I executed with the same mechanical precision I applied to everything in my existence. I found them in an abandoned textile factory, the scent of fresh blood already thick in the air. They were young, barely 50 years transformed, still drunk on the intoxication of power, still believing themselves invincible. "Valerian?" the leader hissed when he saw me. Radu. I'd warned him twice already about his recklessness. "This doesn't concern you." "Everything in this territory concerns me." My voice carried the weight of 3 centuries. "You've broken protocol. Again!" That's when I heard it, a heartbeat. Human, alive, hidden behind a stack of rotting fabric bales. "We have a witness," Radu smiled, blood dripping from his fangs. At his feet lay a man in an expensive suit, throat torn open, eyes staring at nothing. "Don't worry, we were just about to handle it." The human heartbeat accelerated, fear, pure and primal. "Show yourself," I commanded. She emerged slowly, hands raised, trembling. She wore a burgundy dress now torn and splattered with blood. An engagement ring caught the dim light on her left hand. "That's my fiancé," she whispered, looking at the corpse. Her voice didn't break. Shock, I recognized. The mind's defense against horror too large to process. We were walking to our car. They just appeared. Radu moved toward her with predatory grace. "Sorry, sweetheart. Wrong place. Wrong time." I was faster. My hand closed around Radu's throat before he took 2 steps. The other 2 vampires lunged at me, foolish but expected. Young vampires always overestimated their speed. I won't describe the violence that followed. 3 centuries of existence teaches efficiency, not cruelty. Within 90 seconds, 3 bodies turned to ash on the warehouse floor, their existence ended by the same silver-edged blade I'd carried since 1723. The woman hadn't screamed, hadn't run. She stood frozen, watching me with those steady dark eyes. "You should go," I told her, cleaning my blade. "Forget what you saw tonight." "You're going to kill me too." Not a question. A statement of fact, delivered with eerie calm. "Protocol dictates it." I slid the blade back into my coat. "Witnesses don't survive." "Then why are we still talking?" Good question. I'd eliminated witnesses before without hesitation or conversation, so why did I hesitate now? "What's your name?" I asked. "Luminita. Luminita Inache." She glanced at her dead fiancé, and for the first time, emotion cracked through her shock. Adrian and I were going to get married next month. He was a good man. I'm sorry for your loss. Are you? She looked at me with unexpected directness. Do vampires feel sorry, or is that just something you say? I should have killed her then, quick, merciful. But something in her gaze held me. Maybe it was the way she refused to look away. Maybe it was the strange courage it took to question your executioner. Or maybe it was simple curiosity. The first thing I'd felt in 200 years. Come with me, I said. I need to think. Think about whether to kill me? Among other things. She surprised me by laughing. A short, bitter sound. Well, that's honest, at least. She looked at Adrian's body one last time. There's nothing I can do for him now, is there? No. Then I suppose I don't have much choice? She walked toward me, head high despite her trembling hands. For what it's worth, he would have made a terrible husband. His mother hated me, and he never stood up for me once. Isn't that a terrible thing to think, standing next to his body? It's human, I said. I moved behind her faster than her eyes could track. This will hurt, but briefly. Why? I bit her neck. Not to kill, just to taste. Just to understand why I'd hesitated. The moment her blood touched my tongue, my world exploded into sensation. Heat. Burning, brilliant heat like touching the surface of the sun. Her blood didn't just carry flavor, it carried fire, igniting nerve endings I'd forgotten I possessed. Memories flooded through me, not the gray whispers I'd grown accustomed to, but vivid, sharp, real. I saw her childhood in the Carpathian Mountains, the smell of her grandmother's herb garden, felt her fear the first time she left Romania for America at 16, tasted her first kiss, her first heartbreak, her quiet resignation when Adrian proposed with a ring she didn't like but accepted anyway. And underneath it all, a peculiar warmth in her bloodline, like embers buried in ash. Ancient, dormant. Something that recognized what I was and burned in response. I released her, staggering back. My hands were shaking. My hands hadn't shaken in 234 years. Luminitsa collapsed to her knees, hand pressed to her neck. What did you do? I don't know, I whispered, staring at my trembling fingers. For the first time in centuries, I felt alive, and I was terrified. Act 2, the 30 days. I brought her to my home, a Gothic mansion in the Brookline Hills that I'd owned since 1843. She didn't resist, still too dazed from blood loss and shock to fully process what was happening. I gave her one of the guest bedrooms, silk sheets, antique furniture, a view of the garden that bloomed only at night. Everything a prisoner could want, except freedom. Am I going to die? She asked after I'd bandaged her neck. I don't know yet, I answered honestly, and that's becoming your catchphrase. Despite everything, I almost smiled. The first 3 days she barely spoke. She ate the food I provided, slept fitfully, and spent hours staring out the window at the city lights below. I watched her on the security cameras, trying to understand my own hesitation. Protocol was clear. Witnesses died. It protected our kind, maintained the secret that kept us safe. I'd enforced this rule dozens of times without question. But every time I considered ending her life, I remembered that taste, that fire, that fleeting moment of feeling human again. On the 4th night, she found me in my library. 300 years, she said, looking at the leather-bound volumes lining the walls. That's what vampires said before you killed him. You've been alive 300 years. Existed, I corrected. Not lived. There's a difference. She pulled a book from the shelf. Dante's Inferno, 1st edition, 1472. You've had 300 years to read. What's the point of existing if you don't live? A question I've been asking myself for 2 centuries. She sat in the chair across from my desk, still wearing the dress from that night, now cleaned of blood. Why didn't you kill me? Your blood tasted different. Different how? I debated lying, decided against it. Vampires absorb memories from the blood we drink, emotions, sensations, but for 200 years I've felt nothing. Every victim tasted like ash. Until you. Her hand unconsciously touched her bandaged neck. What did I taste like? Fire, I said quietly. Life, everything I'd forgotten. She absorbed this in silence. Then, my grandmother used to tell stories about our family. She said we descended from the Vonatori de Strigoi, vampire hunters from the old Transylvanian bloodlines. I always thought it was just mythology. Hunter bloodlines, I realized. Dormant, but present. That's why you burn. So I'm poison to you. No.
I need you.
I leaned forward.
I know.
You're the opposite. You're the cure for a disease I didn't know I had. Understanding dawned in her eyes. You want to keep me like livestock. The accusation stung because it wasn't entirely wrong. I don't know what I want. For 200 years I've wanted nothing, and now you want to feel again, she finished, even if it means keeping me prisoner? Yes? She stood, walking to the window. Adrian never asked me what I wanted either. He proposed in front of his entire family at Christmas. What was I supposed to say? She turned to face me. I've spent my whole life being what other people needed, the good daughter, the perfect girlfriend, and now I'm supposed to be your cure?
Good daughter, perfect.
I'm not asking you to be anything.
No more. Your duty
Aren't
is
you?
paramount.
Her eyes flashed. You're keeping me here. You've decided my fate without asking what I want. That's the same thing, just with fangs. She was right, and her being right made me angry. Another emotion I'd forgotten how to feel. Then what do you want, Luminitsa? She laughed bitterly. A month ago, I would have said I wanted to marry Adrian, move to his suburb, have his children, and pretend to be happy. Now? She spread her hands. I watched my fiancé die. I've been kidnapped by a vampire. I don't know what I want anymore. 30 days, I heard myself say. What? Stay here 30 days. Let me understand what you are, why your blood affects me this way. At the end, I'll give you 3 choices. Transformation into one of us, protected life, as a human under my guardianship, or freedom with your memories erased. And if I say no, then I'll let you go tonight, but I can't erase your memories without your permission, which means other vampires will sense you've seen too much. You'll be hunted. She considered this for a long moment. 30 days, then I choose. Yes? And during those 30 days, you won't feed on me again without permission? The very thought of that fire in her blood made me ache, but I nodded. You have my word. She extended her hand. Deal, Count Valerian. I shook it. Her skin was warm against my perpetual cold. The 30 days that followed changed everything. Luminitsa was unlike any human I'd encountered in 3 centuries. She didn't cower, didn't try to seduce or manipulate. Instead, she treated my home like a library, my existence like a puzzle to solve. She read my books, asked questions about history I'd witnessed firsthand, made me explain vampire mythology, separating fact from fiction. And slowly, carefully, she made me talk about the man I'd been before. Tell me about Florence, she said one night, curled in the library chair with a blanket and tea. I'd spent 200 years trying not to remember, but with her, the memories came easier. It smelled like oil paint and river water, I began. My father was a silk merchant. I was studying law, though my real passion was music. I played violin. I hadn't thought about that instrument in centuries. I was decent. Not great, but decent enough to play at gatherings. What happened? I fell in love with the wrong woman. She was beautiful, sophisticated, mysterious. I didn't realize what she was until she offered me eternal life together. I smiled without humor. I was 20, arrogant, and terrified of dying ordinary. So I said yes. What was her name? I don't remember anymore. I've forgotten her face, her voice. All I remember is waking up 3 days later, buried in the ground, clawing my way to the surface with a hunger that felt like burning alive from the inside. Luminitsa was quiet for a moment. Do you regret it? Every single day. She surprised me by reaching across and touching my hand. I'm sorry you've been alone so long. That simple gesture of comfort cracked something in me that had been frozen for 2 centuries. I began feeding from her voluntarily, small amounts, never enough to weaken her significantly, always with explicit permission. Each time was the same revelation, fire, sensation, the intoxicating rush of feeling human again. But it was more than the blood, it was the conversations, the way she challenged my cynicism. The sound of her laughter echoing through halls that had been silent for decades. You know what I think? She said on day 17, sitting across from me at dinner. I didn't eat, but I'd grown accustomed to keeping her company. What do you think, Luminitsa? I think you've been alone so long you've forgotten how to live, not exist, live. When's the last time you did something just because it brought you joy? I don't remember. She stood suddenly. Come with me. Where? It's a surprise. She led me to the music room I hadn't entered in 100 years. She'd found my violin, or more accurately, one of dozens I'd collected over centuries, each one an artifact of a past I'd tried to forget. Play something, she said. I haven't touched a violin in 200 years, I know, play anyway. I lifted the instrument with hands that remembered despite centuries of disuse, drew the bow across strings that shouldn't have been in tune but somehow were. The sound that emerged was rusty, unpracticed. But as I played, a simple melody from my youth, something my mother used to hum, something shifted inside me. Luminitsa closed her eyes, swaying slightly to the music. And watching her find beauty in my imperfect playing, I felt something dangerous bloom in my chest. Not hunger, not obsession, something far more terrifying. On day 23, she found me on the balcony at dawn, standing just out of reach of the rising sun. Does it hurt? She asked. The sunlight? It weakens me. Burns if I'm exposed too long, but it doesn't kill. That's a myth. She stood beside me, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. I've made my decision. My dead heart somehow felt like it was breaking. It's only day 23? I know what I want, Dominic. It was the first time she'd used my given name. The intimacy of it struck me harder than sunlight ever could. Tell me, I said. I want you to transform me. Of all the choices I'd expected, this wasn't one. Luminitsa. Let me finish. She turned to face me. I've spent my whole life being half alive, going through motions, meeting expectations, never actually feeling anything. And these past 3 weeks, trapped in a vampire's mansion, I've felt more alive than in 28 years of freedom. Transformation isn't romance, Luminitsa. It's death. You'll lose part of your soul, your humanity. Everything that makes you who you are will what? Fade like yours did? She stepped closer. You said ancient vampires lose their humanity gradually. But what if that's because they lose connection to what made them human? You've been alone for 200 years, Dominic. Maybe the problem isn't being a vampire, maybe it's being alone. You don't understand what you're asking. Then explain it to me. I grabbed her shoulders, perhaps more roughly than intended. The hunger never stops. Every human you pass smells like food. You'll watch everyone you love age and die while you remain frozen. You'll see humanity evolve without you, always apart, always other. And eventually, maybe in a century, maybe in 2, you'll feel exactly what I feel now. Nothing. Just endless, empty existence. With one difference, she said quietly. I won't be alone. I'll have you. I can't be your reason for eternal damnation. You're not. She pulled back. I'm choosing this for me. Because for the first time in my life, I know what I want. I want to feel everything. Even if it means eventually feeling nothing. At least I'll have lived first. There are 2 other options. I can protect you as a human, give you a long life. A half-life, she interrupted, always looking over my shoulder, always knowing there's a whole world I can't be part of. And memory erasure? She laughed bitterly. Going back to my empty apartment, my empty job, my empty existence, pretending Adrian never died and nothing ever mattered. Most humans would choose that comfort. I'm not most humans, Dominic. You tasted my blood. You know I'm not. She was right. The fire in her bloodline, the strength in her spine, the way she'd faced death with eyes open. She wasn't meant for ordinary life, but transformation was irreversible. And the weight of that decision felt heavier than 3 centuries of existence. I need time to think, I said. You have 7 days, she replied. That's all that's left of our deal. Act 3. The choice. The next 5 days were torture of a kind I hadn't experienced since my transformation. Luminitsa had made her choice clear. But the responsibility of making her into what I was, a creature caught between life and death, blessed and cursed with immortality, felt like a weight that might finally break me. I tried to dissuade her, showed her the scars of my existence, the loneliness, the isolation, the mechanical nature of immortal life. But for every horror I described, she had a counterargument. You've been alone, she kept saying. That's what you're not accounting for. On day 28, everything changed. I woke at dusk to the smell of smoke and the sound of breaking glass. The mansion's wards, magical protections I'd established decades ago, were failing. Someone was breaching my home. I found Luminitsa in her room, already awake, eyes wide. What's happening? We're under attack. I grabbed her arm. Come with me now. We'd barely made it to the hallway when they appeared. 5 vampires, older than Radu and his clan had been. One of them I recognized, Dragomir, a Carpathian vampire I'd had dealings with a century ago. Valerian, he smiled, revealing fangs. We heard rumors. A human with Vanatori blood who makes ancient vampires feel again. Quite valuable, wouldn't you say? She's under my protection. Your protection? Dragomir laughed. You haven't cared about anything in 200 years? Why start now? He moved faster than expected, grabbing Luminitsa before I could react. His hand wrapped around her throat, lifting her off the ground. Let's test these rumors, he said, extending his fangs toward her neck. The rage that consumed me was primal, absolute. I didn't remember moving. Didn't remember the specific violence of what I did. I only remember the aftermath. 4 vampires turned to ash. Dragomir pinned against the wall with my hand through his chest. She is mine, I growled, voice barely human. Dragomir smiled despite the fatal wound. Finally, the old Valerian returns. All it took was the right woman. He coughed blood. There are others who know about her. They'll keep coming. Unless what? Transform her. Once she's one of us, she's no longer prey. She's protected by the old laws. His eyes dimmed. Or keep her human and watch her die. Your choice, Valerian. He turned to ash in my grip. I turned to find Luminitsa pressed against the wall, staring at me with eyes that held fear for the first time since I'd met her. Luminitsa? You called me yours, she whispered. I didn't mean... Did you mean it? The honest answer terrified me more than the attack had. Yes. She walked toward me slowly, stepping over ash. Then transform me. Not because I asked, not because it's practical, but because you want me, because 300 years of emptiness ended the moment you tasted my blood. If I transform you, you'll have to watch me fade eventually, she finished. Like you did. Lose my humanity gradually until I become like you were. Empty. Going through motions. She took my hand. Or maybe I won't. Maybe having someone to hold on to changes everything. There's no guarantee. There never is, she smiled sadly. That's what makes it life instead of existence. I looked at this extraordinary woman who'd somehow become the center of my world in less than 30 days, who'd made me feel human again, who'd chosen darkness not out of fear or coercion, but because she'd finally found where she belonged. If I do this, I said slowly, you need to understand what you're choosing. The hunger will consume you at first. You'll want to kill everyone you see. Your human life will die the moment my blood enters your system. There's no going back. I know. You'll hate me sometimes, curse me for making you into this. Probably. And eventually, maybe in a century, maybe in two, you might feel the same emptiness I do. Then we'll feel empty together, she said simply. That's still better than feeling alone. I pulled her close, pressing my forehead against hers. I can't promise you happiness, Luminitsa. I don't want promises, I want truth. And the truth is, I've never felt more alive than in these 30 days with you. She tilted her head, exposing her neck. So stop overthinking and give me eternity. There's a ritual, I said quietly. I'll need to drain you almost completely. Then you'll drink my blood. You'll die. And 3 days later, you'll wake up as something new. Will it hurt? Yes. Will you stay with me? Every moment. She closed her eyes. Then I'm ready. I bit her neck for what would be the last time she was human. And as her blood filled my mouth, that beautiful, burning fire, I made a choice I'd sworn never to make again. I chose not to be alone. Epilogue. Luminitsa Inache died on November 16th, 2025, at 11:47 p.m. I buried her in the garden, in a coffin lined with silk, under the autumn moon. For 3 days I waited, not sleeping, barely moving, just sitting beside her grave, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. On the third night, at exactly 11:47 p.m., the earth moved. I helped her claw her way to the surface, pulling her into my arms as she gasped unnecessarily. New vampires forget they don't need to breathe. Her eyes opened, now ringed with amber, and when she looked at me, I saw recognition. Not the confusion most new vampires experience, but clarity. I'm so hungry, she whispered. I know, we'll hunt together. Dominic? Yes? Thank you. She smiled, fangs emerging for the first time. For giving me a reason to exist. 2 weeks later, I taught her to feed, to control the hunger, to move through the world as a predator while maintaining what remained of her humanity. She struggled. Of course she did. The transition from human to vampire is never easy. She cried tears of blood over what she'd lost, raged against the hunger that never quite faded, mourned the woman she'd been, but she never regretted her choice. And slowly, carefully, she taught me something I'd forgotten, how to live, not just exist. We played music together, her on piano, me on violin. She made me travel to places I'd avoided for centuries, dragging me through museums and concerts and midnight walks through cities I'd stopped seeing decades ago. You're still capable of joy, she told me one night. Standing on a bridge in Prague, snowflakes caught. You just forgot how. And if you forget too, in 100 years? She took my hand. Then you'll remind me. That's what partners do. Partners. Not master and creation, not captor and prisoner. Partners. I don't know if Luminitsa will fade like I did, if in 200 years she'll taste blood like ash and feel the same emptiness that consumed me. The future is uncertain, even for immortals. But tonight, watching her laugh as she chases a snow flurry like a child, I feel something I haven't felt in 3 centuries. Hope. Maybe she's right. Maybe I lost my humanity not because I became a vampire, but because I stopped trying to hold on to it, stopped connecting, stopped caring. Maybe love is the variable that makes eternity bearable. She catches the snowflake and turns to me with a smile that still carries traces of the woman who faced death with eyes open. Come on, old man, she calls. We're immortal. We can't waste a single night. I join her on the bridge, pulling her into my arms. Her body is cold now, like mine, but somehow pressed against her, I feel warm. I love you, I say, words I haven't spoken in 300 years. I know, she replies. I tasted it in your blood. We stand there as snow falls on 2 vampires who found something rarer than immortality. A reason to wake up tomorrow night.